The 2009 Bridgestone South African Production Car Championship produced some of 2009's best spectacle, with robust car-crunching action much in evidence throughout the year. The season kicked off at the Aldo Scribante circuit near Port Elizabeth in the beginning of March. The drama began about 10 seconds after the start of the very first race, when Robert Volk's BMW and Marco de Cunha's Nissan collided, spun and ploughed into the tyre walls at high speed, narrowly missing a marshal. The rest of the field got right down to the business of speed and intimidation in what is arguably the country's toughest circuit racing discipline. Few of the front-running cars escaped damage during a long, hard afternoon, and it became immediately apparent that little had changed in the production car racing jungle during the off-season. The Afrox BMW team's Anthony Taylor emerged as the opening event's top point scorer, with Indy Oil Audi driver Johan Fourie and Engine Extreme Audi racer Michael Stephen in close pursuit. Meanwhile, the authorities said that they would act against Robert Volk for his first lap indiscretion. Volk raced under appeal at Kyalami 3 weeks later, rejoining the rest of the Class A competitors at the traditional home of the Westbank Super Series. Again, the competition was furious, with Sam Racing's Nissan 350Z driver Leroy Poulter and the Sasol Subaru team's Dawie Olivier joining the front runners. This time they were outgunning the Audi squad, and Poulter went on to win the day's opening race. Both came to grief in the second heat though. Olivier slid off the black stuff and stopped down the field. Then Poulter fell into the clutches of the manic midfield bunch, where body blows are exchanged as a matter of routine. Eventually, this racing incident with Johan Fourie's Audi caused the Nissan driver's retirement in the SS 2 lap from the end. As before, BMW's Anthony Taylor survived a number of interesting moments to end up as the day's overall winner, enlarging his overall points lead in the process. Taylor now had a full race victory in hand over his nearest challenger, Johan Fourie, with VMP Audi driver Melville Priest in third place. The circus performed at a packed Killarney circuit in the Western Cape on the 9th of May, taking time out to interact with a hugely enthusiastic Cape Townian crowd beforehand. Back in their cars, Nissan's Leroy Poulter and Audi's Johan Fourie, the local hero, won the day's 2 races respectively. The results saw Anthony Taylor's championship lead shrink, while Leroy Poulter's victory moved him up to third place in the title chase, marginally behind Johan Fourie. Bunched close together in the midfield pack were Audi drivers Michael Stephen, Melville Priest and Sean Watson-Smith. The next stop in the agenda was the legendary East London Grand Prix circuit, where ultra-fast straights and sweeping corners had most of the drivers with their race faces on after qualifying. Leroy Poulter was in great form, started from pole position and won the opening race despite a number of stern challenges for the lead. As usual, the historical circuit's brilliant layout brought out the best in the drivers, and a huge crowd was thoroughly entertained. Melville Priest won the second race in his Audi. Priest's victory elevated him to 4th on the title roster, while Poulter's win saw him crawling up to just 1 point behind second-place man Johan Fourie. Meanwhile, 2nd and 5th places on the day served to extend Anthony Taylor's overall championship lead. The circus returned to Kyalami at the end of June, and Subaru unveiled its brand new hatchback Warrior. It was immediately quick in Dawie Olivier's capable hands and qualified on the front row of the grid, but a lack of development soon saw it engulfed by the chasing pack. The Audi contingent had the upper hand this time around, with the 4 ringed cars finishing 1st, 2nd and 3rd in both races. Not unexpectedly, the following midfield pack became a dangerous, unpredictable place to be, with unplanned skirmishes at high speed very much the order of the day. In all, the spectators were thoroughly entertained. The results left BMW's Anthony Taylor and Audi's Johan Fourie tied at the top of the championship points table, with Melville Priest, Leroy Poulter and Michael Stephen inching ever closer to the leading pair. Predicting an overall title winner at this point would be sheer folly. The tight and tricky Swartkop circuit near Pretoria hosted the series next. The venue has developed various specialists over the years, with Audi's Melville Priest and BMW's Anthony Taylor among them. Not surprisingly then, Taylor and Priest went on to score the day's 2 victories respectively. Tough on brakes and difficult to pass on, the Swartkop circuit favours tough street fighters. On this occasion, Nissan's Leroy Poulter, Subaru's Dawie Olivier, plus Audi's Michael Stephen and Johan Fourie fitted the bill best in the day's various runner-up positions. Taylor's victory put him back at the top of the points ladder, with Johan Fourie and Melville Priest on his heels. Meanwhile, with consistency on their side, Leroy Poulter and Michael Stephen remained well within striking distance should any of the frontrunners stumble. New competition joined the fray at the Free State Phakisa Raceway early in September. Sponsored by Rough Rider Condoms, Lee Thompson's new BMW 330i was quick but erratic. It was destined to be punted into a mid-pack spin and subsequent huge crash. Meanwhile, Engine Extreme Audi drivers Michael Stephen and Sean Watson-Smith quietly got on with the job to end up as the day's 2 race winners respectively. Second places went to Anthony Taylor and Leroy Poulter. The top 4 drivers, BMW's Anthony Taylor, Audi's Johan Fourie and Michael Stephen, plus Nissan's Leroy Poulter, were now covered by just 11 points on the title log, making this season's championship chase one of the closest in the last decade. The penultimate round of the Westbank Super Series took place at the Western Cape Killarney circuit late in September. Naturally, local hero Johan Fourie was a huge crowd favourite and expected to fight for victory in both the Bridgestone production car races. Fourie did not disappoint his home fans, qualifying on the front row of the grid. Typically Cape Town wet conditions made life ideal for the Audi drivers. They promptly took first, second and third places in the day's opening race, led home by Engine Extreme Audi Sean Watson-Smith. For the local crowd, the day's highlight came in race 2, when Johan Fourie fought off various challenges to take a resounding victory in his Indy Oil Audi. He was chased to the line by Sean Watson-Smith and Michael Stephen to complete Audi's domination on this occasion. The results left Fourie in Bridgestone production car terms with a sizable points lead before the year's final meeting at Kyalami. Behind him, Anthony Taylor and Michael Stephen were just about locked on points in second place, with Leroy Poulter also still in the picture. The final round of this year's Bridgestone Production Car Championship took place at Kyalami on October the 17th, with the title chase still wide open. We spoke to a top contender, the Afrox BMW team's Anthony Taylor, before the event.
You know, we had a bad event down at Cape Town, especially it being wet. So let's hope that this weekend it's not wet again. I really need it to be dry, and also, you know, this whole weight issue. It's the first time this year that I think they're getting the weights right, which is a bit late in the season for us. But yeah, nevertheless, it's we just have to do with what we have, and let's hope for the best for the championship for Afrox and BMW.
Title leader Johan Fourie's Audi ran in the colours of Indy Oil this year, and we asked MD Trevor Pothecary about their motorsport involvement.
Well, obviously, I think the first and most important thing is we're using motorsport to raise the profile of our brand. I think we obviously want to showcase our products, and we do that through Johan Fourie, Graham Nathan, and Brendan Green. So obviously, what we're trying to do is get our products out in the marketplace, and basically send a message out to the market that the product's good enough to work in production car racing, then it's good enough to work out in the marketplace.
We asked Johan Fourie, who enjoyed a 10-point championship lead, about his strategy at this final race meeting of the year.
Finish both races was the most important thing, but I can't let Taylor be too far ahead of me, so it's all going to come down to qualifying and see how the car performs. Yesterday we were quite happy, but the extra weight they put in the cars from Killarney really hurts us a little bit. I don't think that was necessary, but we're still up there, so we just have to put a brilliant lap in, a perfect lap in, and hopefully we can be in the top 3, top 4 and be close to Taylor, because it seems like he had a bit of pace yesterday, and then hope for some rain for the second heat. To stay ahead of Taylor, then we should be able to do it.
With starting positions of paramount importance, the Saturday morning's official qualifying session was a white-knuckle affair. At Kyalami, where the short straights do not lend themselves to slipstreaming, the trick is to post a really quick lap early in the 20-minute session and try to back it up with another immediately afterwards. That was exactly what the extremely professional Bridgestone production car drivers did, with the top 9 Class A qualifiers setting their best times on their second lap. Not surprisingly, the top 7 qualifiers were covered by just 1 second on the starting grid. Anthony Taylor and Robert Volk delighted the Afrox team by planting their BMWs on the front row, heading the Audi of Melville Priest and Marco de Cunha's Nissan. Finally, it was time to line up for the day's opening race. The Bridgestone production car contingent made a colourful picture on Kyalami's grid as the drivers settled in and technicians performed last-minute checks on a variety of things. As the field set off, it was a worried points leader Johan Fourie who took up the 9th place. His Audi had developed a mysterious case of violent oversteer during qualifying, defying the team's efforts to dial it out.
So this is what it's come down to, the final round of the Bridgestone production cars, and it's BMW City at the front. But the man to watch out for is definitely the man that leads on points, the Indy Oils Audi of Johan Fourie. He's got it all to do today, and it looks like the weather conditions are going to come to him.
And Fourie's right at the back of the field. It's a 10-car field this once, 8 laps of racing, and look at those leaden skies about to come down. Already the spits of water on the windscreens. This is going to be one dramatic race. It's Taylor in the front, Walker second, BM1 and 2, the Afrox BM. Then it's Melville Priest in A7, the white car, Marco Acuna, there's Lee Thompson, and Leroy Poulter is in there as well.
So the Afrox BMWs, who always run good at Kyalami, have hit the front, but check out Melville Priest. He uses this for a lot of training, a lot of testing in his Audi as well, and this is the best he's run in the early stages of the racing. Watch out though, if the weather does turn worse than this, you're going to start seeing the rear-wheel drive cars really battle to get drive out the corners, and that's when the Quattro systems on the Audis, and don't forget about the Subaru of Davio Olivier, that's when they'll start coming through. A lot of contact in that corner.
Oh, and Lee Thompson has spun it in the corner, and you saw the Johan Fourie, as if it's not bad enough. He had problems in practice, back of the grid. Now he's hit Thompson's car, and that must do damage to the back of his car.
So that's opened up a huge hole in the mid-pack. Check out Acuna. He's coming through and challenging Volk. Off the front, it is still Taylor, and he now has to get chased down by Priest. But Priest was also caught up a little bit in that, and that's opened up a huge hole between 1 and 2. Number 3 on the road. There we go. Oh, just a little bit of damage from Lee Thompson. Actually, looks like it's caused a huge amount of damage to Fourie's car. That's massive for the championship as well, because Fourie came into this leading on points.
And where could they go? And there goes Davio Olivier into the outfield. There's Sean Watson Smith out there. Big problems, going to push them way back in the field. But Fourie has got problems. Look at him, smoking from the right rear of his motor car. He's got terminal damage.
Actually opened the door there so he can see, so he's got smoke inside the cab as well. He's going to have to come in and sort that out, otherwise it's going to be a black flag situation.
And it's just these 2 races to go. He comes into this race, starts at the back of the grid. He's a 9-point lead over Taylor, who's now leading this race ahead of Melville Priest and Robert Walk.
So Fourie, look at that, he's still staying out there. He will get a black flag. I think he's got 2 laps to pull in, otherwise he is going to be under scrutiny. But that is a huge story. Look at that, Johan Fourie just letting the whole world go past him, and he's watching this championship go away. Couldn't even make that turn through turn number 2, and he goes farming.
Oh, that's terminal damage there. His championship is going away from him. The weather gods are above him. There might be water on the road coming there. Look at the damage to the back of that motor car. There goes his championship in that Indy Oil Audi.
Suspension completely gone. Actually, Thompson about to come past him as well. Thompson was the man that spun or got spun out on lap number 1, and he's got a lot of chasing to do. It was actually the back of Thompson's car that tagged the Audi, the Indy Oils Audi of Johan Fourie, and caused that damage. Out front, though, we've still got a race going on. This is the 3rd place battle we're picking up on. Robert Volk, the second of the Afrox BMWs, getting chased down, not by Poulter. This time it's Acuna that's the leading Nissan.
Marco Acuna is having the drive of his life here, no doubt about it. And behind him, the blue Nissan is Leroy Poulter, also been a champion in this racing, as have most of these drivers. They've won one championship or another in South Africa. And Marco Acuna is really on the pace on these dry roads.
You know, Roger, I'm just thinking about Fourie there. Bad luck for him, but such good luck for Taylor, his championship rival. He's off front and no one's even challenging him at the moment. Priest may catch him up yet, but at the moment there's around about 1.5 seconds between Taylor and Priest.
And they are flying, 4-wheel drifting down through the sweep. They come, look at them, one after, just pop into view there, and that's at over 200 k's an hour. They're arriving through that sweep and going to the bowl. It's spectacular racing.
The good thing is at the moment the weather is kind of holding. There's a few spots out there, but essentially it's a dry track, so there's plenty of grip for the rear-wheel drive cars. There's no huge advantage as yet for the 4-wheel drive systems.
No, those 2-wheel drive cars have got to cash in while they can. One is in the front, one is third, fourth and fifth. That's how it goes at the moment. Priest is the first of the Audis. Here he comes in that white one. Behind him he's got Robert Walk going very well. He comes from East London, now stays up in Gauteng. He's a single-seater champion as well. And here's Fourie. Problems for Fourie. championship has gone down the drain as he comes in, but what disappointment.
You can see Fourie in the top left-hand corner, not even staying on track. He's going all the way into the pits. The air goes in, jacks up the car. They're going to try and rip that wheel off, but it's not the wheel that's caused the damage. It's the suspension behind the wheel, and that is around about half an hour turnaround to even try and get that thing fixed. Thompson comes in the Rough Rider BMW as well, and he's got to get rid of that, or there's going to be a black flag for him as well, dragging most of his bodywork behind him.
And that was all caused by that one accident. Thompson spinning, Fourie hitting him, championship out the window, and he'll go back onto the circuit. It's not going to help him because he's so far behind. He'll get very few points out of this race, if any. There's Priest coming up in second. Robert Wall, Marco Acuna going like a rocket. Here comes Leroy Poulter.
Sean Watson-Smith having a look up the inside as they go up onto Westbank. So a bit of a dismal qualifier for Sean Watson-Smith and his teammate in the Engen Extreme Audis, Michael Stephen, not even lining up for race number 1. So Watson-Smith having to fly the flag solo. But look at Priest. He is super aggressive. He's got away from that third place battle, and he is now hunting down the lead BMW as Watson-Smith shows a wheel to Poulter.
Well, that's four-wheel drifting is fantastic. Every single one of those that come through the street. Here we go now, right wide line. Here comes Priest to challenge. He's challenging for the lead. He's caught right up onto Taylor on the Afrex BMW. We're on board with him now. He's going on the inside as they come up the hill to this right-hand, the new right-hand, it's a very fast one. You just lift and then plant your foot as you go through, and I think we've got a new leader. He's alongside him at the moment.
Not just yet. They go into turn 14. That's now known as Vodacom corner, the final corner on the circuit. And we're seeing some different lines. It looks like a missed gear. Taylor missed a gear in the Afrox BMW. And Priest is just going to power by. Got much better drive out of turn 14. That's going to give him the lead as we go on board in the top left-hand side of the screen. Priest now leads going into turn number 1. Taylor will not give it up, though. And the rain is now starting to fall. Look at that. You can see that there's just no more grip left on the Afrox BMW. And it's getting greasy out there. Watch out for Taylor to drop off the pace.
Here we come to the line now. It's Priest. They've weathered this slipperiness. It's almost semi-slick tires, these Bridgestone tires that they're on at the moment. Round the last corner is going to be Melville Priest. Will have more drive out the corner. Four wheels at work. They're pulling him to the line. Taylor right on his tail. And more importantly, Taylor has gone into a 2-point lead with one race to go in this championship.
Melville Priest's victory was a close one. He finished just half a second ahead of Anthony Taylor, who drove brilliantly to bring the rear-wheel drive BMW home in second place. Though he stood no chance in the season's overall championship stakes anymore, Melville Priest was extremely pleased with his cool, carefully calculated race victory.
Yeah, you know, we were looking for another win for the season. You know, we had 2 so far, so you know, the guys are sitting on 3 wins, and we felt we were very competitive this year. So we decided that to have another win, give us 3 wins for the season, would show that we were on the pace the whole season. Just a few unlucky moments here and there to put us out of the championship, but yeah, we were right there and happy to win again for the team.
Meanwhile, Johan Fourie ruefully reflected on the fact that some days in motorsport you have luck or just no luck at all.
Yeah, well, we had a bad qualifying, and unfortunately we were in the back, and I knew it was going to be carnage, so I took it very cautiously, and then through clubhouse I had a sniff at Michael on the inside, but he closed the door firmly in my face, so and I tried to look through the winners. I could see the BMW slightly start spinning, and I backed off a little bit and tried to pick an angle left or right to go past him because I saw him spinning. I wasn't sure which way he was going to go, and I followed Sean going through in the inside on the left. And I thought I was going to be clear, and then at the last moment the BMW just spun around and it just kept on going backwards, and then as I passed it just clipped me on the wheel, and there was enough damage to destroy the back suspension and the back shock, so got a flat tire as well, so it pretty much ruined our race, so puts us in a difficult position, so I don't know what's going to happen for the second race.
The second race's reverse order grid put Lee Thompson's crash-prone BMW on pole position. More importantly, Davy Olivier Sassel Subaru would also start from the front row.
Longer race coming up here, and look at the weather conditions. And the bad news for Fourie, he finished 10th. They only reversed the first 9 drivers home. So he starts right at the back of the grid. They're just putting obstacles in his way. The weather gods haven't played the game, and as they start the last 10 laps, it's longer than normal, 42 Ks of racing to decide this championship. At the moment, Taylor is in the front in that Afrox BMW. Ferrari has got nothing to lose. He's just got to go for it.
So importantly, there is going to be a challenge at the front to see who's going to take the final victory on the day. But more importantly, further down the track, there's only one position between Taylor and Ferrari. Those are the guys fighting out for the championship, and they are running 9th and 10th on the road.
And here's a capable car at work now. Davi Olafie started at the back of the grid in the first race. He's now reversed the grid, and he's in second spot. He's got Lee Thompson ahead of him, looking for grip in that Rough Rider BMW. The Subaru certainly has got 4 wheels at work. It's pulling him along, and he's going into the front. This is going to be great for him. They've only a few races into the season with that new car, and they're starting to show.
If you want to blame anyone for the weather, blame Davi Olafie. He was out there doing rain dances. This is the weather he wanted for that car. He said this is where he loves driving, this is where the car loves driving, and this is not where Nissan 350Zs love driving. Rear-wheel drive in a wet just doesn't suit it. Marco D'Acunha, he's now blown out the back.
Yeah, and that corner is treacherous. Gee, it has caught so many people out. We look behind. Anthony Taylor, is he looking for Ferrari? He's in the background there. If you can see it through all the water that's happening there as they go around this, they've got to be very careful. As Matt said before, you have a river running across the road. It can float you right off the circuit as they climb up there.
Big sideways moment for Taylor there, and Ferrari has got around the other Afrox BMW of Volk as we go back to another dice out front. This is Sean Watson-Smith starting to make his way through traffic. Lee Thompson, he'll have known in his heart of hearts that he wouldn't have been able to hang on to this lead in the rear-wheel drive BMW. The best he can do now is try and finish as the first rear-wheel drive car, because on the road we've got Subaru, then it's an Audi, both all-wheel drive systems, and Taylor, I don't know how he's seeing out that screen, he is just keeping the hammer down and keeping Ferrari out of the way. Ferrari's got through, Ferrari's in front of him.
Well, can you believe it? He just looks out there, surprise, surprise. And of course, if you want any proof that a 4-wheel drive car is safe in the rain, here it is. It's fast, it's safe, it holds the road. There's Ferrari and there's Taylor. So he has got ahead of him. Now Taylor's got to go some. Ferrari has now equalized the points. Now it's going to be a fight to the finish with lots of laps to do, and treacherous laps. You can lose the car. Those drivers are concentrating so hard as Davi looks back in his mirrors, and guess who's there? It's Sean Watson-Smith right there on his tail in the engine Audi.
Watson-Smith, another Rainmeister coming up from the coast. He's really closed up on the back wheel of the Subaru. Those two drivers are really starting to get away. The third place dice now is all about Lee Thompson in the first of the BMWs riding under the Rough Rider colors, and it looked like it was Leroy Poulter. Also, you wouldn't expect to see him come through as such a good wet weather driver, but karting, he doesn't mind going sideways, and he'll keep the power down.
Absolutely. You'll see Leroy Poulter's good in the wet. He's always been good in the wet. Two-wheel driver, not. He's been good in the kart. Leroy Poulter, very accomplished champion as well. Davi taking it easy here.
Listen to the revs as well. Really just tickling it the whole way through. We go through Universal, heading up, and we're heading into what we used to know as Sunset.
Yeah, and have you noticed on his dashboard, looks like he's got a road angel to tell him that speed limit in the car. I don't know if it's what it's doing or if that's his timing from his pits, but he's got Sean Watson-Smith right on his tail. There's Thompson, there's Leroy Poulter, fourth in the two-wheel drive. Nissan 350, he's right there too, that blue one. And Davi Olafie, this is the part of the circuit. From as he gets around.
Here we go, sideways action. This is not a WRC rally, people. This is circuit racing at the final round of the West Bank Super Series Production Cars Class A. Davi Olafie not lifting for a moment as he lit it up coming out of the S's.
Could you have a more dramatic finish to a season? Davi Olafie, before he comes to the old clubhouse corner, starts to move away from that. This is his part of the circuit. Once he gets past the start and finish, then they seem to close up on him.
Taylor and Stephen, they're going at it hammer and tongs. So Taylor is starting to come to grips with conditions. We go on board with him as he comes out of the West Bank and going down the West Bank mine shaft now. Absolutely flat out, has to lift a little tiny bit, but also just gingerly keep the power on. He's got to close up on Ferrari, because Ferrari, he's in 5th place, but he's challenging for 4th. He's coming shoulder to shoulder with Poulter.
And he's got Lee Thompson ahead of him. That should be easy for this 4-wheel drive Audi. He's taking it easy. He's got enough laps to do it. He's picking them off, and he's starting to, from a disastrous scene after the first race, he's starting to look good for the championship.
Yeah, the team have done an absolutely astounding job just to get that car out on the track and to be challenging for 5th place. In fact, it's going to be challenging for 3rd pretty soon, because Thompson is just not coping in the conditions, and the 4th and 5th place battle is eating him up. We go back on lap 3 now to the leaders. It is all about the Subaru versus the Audi. Two Rainmeisters going at it as hard as they can. Skills, just
yeah, they're fantastic.
Bundles of skills.
Absolutely, these two drivers. This is where Sean Watson-Smith is quicker, And you'll see when Davy Olivier gets around the next corner and into Clubhouse, he's going to start pulling away from him.
It's the power down the straight lines. The Subaru just can unleash it a little bit better than the Audi can. Also, I think the Subaru is a slightly lighter, smaller car as well. Sean Watson-Smith, though, very smooth, very precise lines in this kind of weather. And he almost runs superbike lines, in fact. Very wide open and can keep the power down mid-corner speed.
There goes Davy. He's opening up the gap already. And, of course, a very capable Subaru, those cars. Oodles of power they've got. Here's Fourie coming. He's got Lee Thompson ahead of him. He should be easy pickings, or should he? Lee Thompson's a company's driver. As each driver in this field, actually, they are so capable. Some of the best drivers we've got in the country.
Thompson a little bit loose going into the Go GPSs. Coming out, Fourie's got a much better drive up the inside. And this is now the challenge on the road for third place. Leroy Poulter is just at the back of this battle, so there's a three-way split in third place.
And as you remember, Lee Thompson's the man that took Fourie out. He's on his tail now. He's going to have to get past him safely this time. He ruined his championship chances in the first race by spinning. Fourie going into him with the back of his car. It's been fixed, and here he comes. Here he comes down the road now. They're going flat out down through the sweep. Look at them, the grip they've got on the road. They hardly grip the road. And Thompson goes wide there. Here's Fourie too, almost out of control.
There's contact. Fourie goes up the inside. Thompson on the outside. Fourie got a little bit loose. There was contact. That tagged the back end of Thompson's BMW, sending him off spinning. And there is terminal damage to the front of that Rough Rider car. So a luckless Thompson beaches it on the outside of the sweep. As we see Stephen come through. Now, the only reason he's going to have that door open is because he cannot see out the screen. He's misting up.
Absolutely. That's terrible conditions. Some of these wipers are not working that well. Mind you, these sort of speeds with the heat coming off the engine. The thing about the Thompson car, you do not slow down on grass. You've just got to sit there and wait until it runs into something or it runs out of energy. Here we go now. How are we going to clean this windscreen and get him back into the race?
So Stephen is in the pits. Thompson is parked on the side. He's going nowhere. We go back to the front and pick up on the action, though. Stephen goes out. He's going to be around about half a lap down. He's going to not be able to help out his teammates. We go back and check out the action of Fourie and Thompson coming together through that sweep at the bottom of the mine shaft. In these conditions, is just absolutely terrifying. The front of the BMW didn't hit first, but it was slapped around hard enough, and it ripped that right tire right off.
Davy Olivier is going to have a maiden win in that motor car. We've got a lap and a bit. This is the penultimate lap to go. Who says you can't drive rear-wheel drive cars in the wet? Leroy Poulter
all the way on
second.
The outside of the track as well. You know what he's doing? He's finding a little bit of extra grip in the mud. No one else has tried that tactic. It didn't work out for him that time because Sean Watson-Smith was able to get him back. But watch out for the high speed, the flat-out top speed of the Nissan 350Z under the Sam Racing colours. Poulter just gets the drive down this back straight. He actually used a little bit of slingshot there, and Watson-Smith had no answer to him. In fact, looks like Watson-Smith's got a problem because around the outside, here comes Fourie. Here comes the championship.
He's going to tie with Taylor for points. If he stays in that spot, he's just done everything he had to do. It's Olivier to the front. He's going to take the flag. Last corner to go. Here is Leroy Poulter. What a drive in that distance. Fourie is in third spot, tying with Taylor on the championship. They'll have to sort that one out.
What a drive from Poulter, though. In these conditions, no one would have ever called a second place position for a rear-wheel drive car.
Davy Olivier finished just more than a second ahead of Leroy Poulter, whose brilliant drive to second included him setting the quickest lap of the race in his Nissan. This was, after a number of near misses, the new Subaru's maiden race victory. Naturally, driver Davy Olivier was over the moon.
Everybody out there knows that this is the best car on the circuit. It's a fantastic car. And I mean, with Cecil on our side this year, we had a lot of problems and all of that, but with Cecil on our side, going forward, it'll be fantastic.
Sadly, the 2009 Bridgestone Production Car Championship was not concluded at Kyalami when various protests dating back to earlier race meetings this year came into play. The winner will be either Audi's Johan Fourie or BMW's Anthony Taylor, hopefully to be announced soon. This year's Bridgestone Production Car Class T Championship for force-inducted cars produced large grids, close racing, spectacle and tension of its own throughout the season. The season-opening race at Aldo Scribante in March indicated things to come when Volkswagen's Graham Nathan and Ford's Gary Formato shared the day's race victories. Having set the quickest qualifying time, Nathan and his Indy Oil Golf GTI emerged as the immediate season's points leader, ahead of Formato's Nando's Ford Focus ST, Kurt Alchen's Bodyman Golf GTI, and the MFC Mazda 3 MPS of Heinz Buser. 3 weeks later at Kyalami, a new challenger arrived in the Opel Astra OPC of Richard Roots. The Opel was immediately on the pace, with Roots taking on usual winning suspects Nathan and Formato. It turned into a brilliant three-way fight, with Roots narrowly winning from Nathan and Formato. Having made his mark, Roots was hoping to secure sponsorship and complete the rest of the season. Not surprisingly, things became robust in the meeting's second race, with Formato and Roots exchanging early blows. Eventually, the suspension of Roots' Opel was damaged, causing him to plough helplessly into a tyre wall, out for the day. Graham Nathan went on to win the race in his Golf GTI. Various incidents left Gary Formato's Ford damaged, and he only finished 7th, which saw Graham Nathan consolidating his championship lead. Third, depending on relentless reliability and consistency, was Kurt Alchen in his Bodyman Golf GTI. The next round of the Westbank Super Series took place on the Western Cape Killarney circuit at the beginning of May. As has become customary, Graham Nathan and Gary Formato were the two people to beat. This time, Formato boasted superior pace, and he won the opening race in fine style with the Nando's Ford Focus. Race 2 started from a reverse-order grid, which saw Formato scything through the field from the back, while Nathan got delayed in various backmarker squabbles, preventing a victory challenge. He settled for a second place, while Formato won. The two victories brought Formato closer to Nathan again. Meanwhile, the two protagonists were beginning to open a significant gap between themselves and the rest of the field, still led by veteran Kurt Alchen in his Golf GTI and Heinz Buser in his Mazda 3 MPS. The historical East London Grand Prix circuit was next on the list, and the venue's ultra-fast nature suited the Nando's Ford ST models down to the tarmac. Sean Duminy took the first pole position of his career in qualifying, while Gary Formato won the day's opening race from starting lights to flag, setting the day's quickest lap time en route. The second race was led by the Volkswagen GTI models of Mark Carver, Kurt Alchen and Graham Nathan, plus the Mazda of Heinz Buser in rapid succession. Graham Nathan took time out for a wild spin in the Cochabana hairpin corner, and while he battled to rejoin the field, Formato swept past to attack the leaders. His task was made simpler when Heinz Buser visited the Eastern Cape Flora with his Mazda, only rejoining the tarmac about 50 meters further. That left Formato to take his second victory of the day, leading home a hard-charging Nathan. Two second places on the day preserved Graham Nathan's championship lead, now 10 points ahead of Gary Formato. Volkswagen's ever-consistent Kurt Alchen held sway in third place, with Mazda's Heinz Buser and Volkswagen's Michael van Rooyen locked in fourth. The Westbank Super Series reached its halfway point at Kyalami at the end of June. Gary Formato started by qualifying quickest in his Ford, and he led the opening race from the start. Behind him, Graham Nathan was carving through the field though. After disposing of Sean Duminy through the circuit's fastest corners, Nathan attacked Formato in the same spot 2 laps later. As is their nature, neither driver would give way. There was contact, and Formato came off the worst. His subsequent spectacular spin and eventual crash dropped him right out of contention, and Graham Nathan was later disqualified from the results. Race 2 saw equally robust action, with the quicker drivers hell-bent on carving through the field after the inverted grid start. Graham Nathan decided to dive past the Mazda of Etienne Prinsloo on the grass, slid into the other car and created one of the season's very biggest, most controversial and extremely costly crashes. A delighted Graham Donker went on to score the first race victory of his career. Despite the controversy, Graham Nathan left Kyalami as the points leader. However, the championship controllers called him to account for causing 2 huge crashes on one day and decided to bar him from entering the next round of the series at Zwartkops in a month's time. And so it came to pass that the Class T field lined up without Graham Nathan for rounds 11 and 12 of the championship at Zwartkops in the middle of August. Everybody was hoping to benefit from the situation, with Ford's Gary Formato the best place to do so. Aware of the implications, Formato grabbed the opportunity by the horns. He set the quickest official qualifying time and won the day's opening race from start to finish, scoring an extra point for setting the quickest lap of the race in his Focus ST. It was a commanding, impressive performance and came exactly when needed to pump new lifeblood into the Nando's Ford team's championship aspirations, plus the Class T title chase as a whole. Another breath of fresh air came from Heinz Buser when he drove brilliantly past many other drivers and won the day's second race in his Mazda. Gary Formato's effort stood him and the Ford team in good stead. He left Zwartkops as season points leader, the first time any driver other than Graham Nathan had enjoyed that distinction. Nathan was still second ahead of Heinz Buser though, and he would be back with a vengeance. The Free State Pekisa Raceway saw Graham Nathan's return from exile. The Indy Oil Golf GTI driver came back in style, scoring the quickest qualifying time and winning the opening heat, scoring an extra point for setting the quickest time of the race. The next race's inverted grid saw the best start of the year from Gary Formato when he passed 6 other cars in one move after jumping the start, for which he was later penalised. Andre van der Merwe led in his Renault Megane Sport for a while, hotly pursued by Formato, George Smallberger, Heinz Buser and Graham Nathan. In the end, it boiled down to a confrontation between Formato and Nathan until Formato was slowed and sidelined by mechanical gremlins, leaving Nathan to take another effortless victory. Nathan's triumphant return certainly bore fruit. His 2 victories returned him to the top of the championship log ahead of Gary Formato, albeit only by 2 points. Meanwhile, Heinz Buser took his Mazda to a well-deserved 3rd place in the season standings. The penultimate round of the Westbank Super Series took place at the Western Cape Kalani circuit at the end of September. The opening Class T grid had a familiar look about it, with Graham Nathan's Golf on pole position. Not surprisingly, he also went on to win the race in convincing style, followed by local ace Brett Roach and Gary Formato. The second race saw Nathan scything through the field from the back of the grid, soon challenging initial race leaders Mark Carver and Brett Roach as battering rain conspired to turn Kalani into a huge skid pan. Various people were caught out by the tricky conditions, including title contender Gary Formato and a while later, local racer Brett Roach. For Graham Nathan, it all came to an end when he suffered a punctured tyre and had to pit, effectively dropping him out of the points, while Gary Formato went on to win the race from his Nando's Ford teammate Sean Duminy. The upshot of all the excitement was one of the closest championship confrontations in years. Gary Formato left Kalani with a single points lead over Graham Nathan, and the 2 Tin Top Masters would fight for the title to the bitter end. Class B of this year's Bridgestone Production Car Championship for normally aspirated 2-litre cars saw a seasonal fight between Kwesi Swanepoel in his Barnett's Toyota Runex RSI and the unsponsored Alfa Romeo 147 of Gary Green. Another regular contender was Sean Pike, who drove his Tosco Racing Toyota Runex RSI consistently to pick up regular points in the 3rd place. Whenever one or the other of the 2 title aspirants made mistakes, Pike would be there to reap the benefits plus some extra points. With a total of just 4 cars contesting the Class B title during 2009, the controllers are looking forward to implementing a plan to boost the field in 2010. Arriving at Kyalami, Kwesi Swanepoel led the championship chase comfortably with his Toyota, and it did not faze him much when Gary Green in the Alfa Romeo beat him to the checkered flag in the day's opening race. Run on a sopping wet Kyalami, race 2 saw a number of competitors fall off the black stuff, including Ralph Kearns in his Renault Clio Sport. Luckily, he could recover and continue. At the front end of the field, Kwesi Swanepoel and Sean Pike were involved in a massive dice for overall glory. Both drivers were showing just how well versed they are in the sometimes mysterious art of pedaling powerful front-wheel drive machines on extremely slippery surfaces. The secret is to never, never, never lift your right foot in a corner after turning in. On this particular occasion, Swanepoel did it a bit better, ending up with the race win and championship. The new title holder spoke to us afterwards.
We ended up having a lot of success with the Alpha of Gary Green, which has become very fast. So, but yeah, today I've won the championships and he won the first heat. But yeah, we've already won it. I'm happy for everyone. I'm happy for my team. I'm happy for Barnett's Auto Spares, and I'm happy for family.
The final Class T round of this year's Bridgestone Production Car Championship attracted 12 entries, but all eyes were on the title fight between Gary Formato and Graham Nathan. We spoke to Formato.
We've just got to finish both races. I think reliability is going to be key, and do what we can, look after the car and tally the points up at the end of the day. You know, the Golf is flying at the moment, and it's going to be hard to beat. There's no lies. Who knows, maybe it rains, that gives us maybe a little more chance. You never know what's going to happen. But like I say, if you're there at the end of both races, that's the only way we're going to have a chance of doing anything.
Formato's arch-rival Graham Nathan was more confident of a positive result in his Indy Oil Volkswagen Golf GTI, wet or dry.
My first comment, it was a great qualifying. The guys did a superb job on my motor car. My entire team, my entire support crew, I can't thank them enough. Yes, I had a nice lap from my side, but I can't do it without these guys. They're the best. And yeah, the championship is wide open. We're level pegging. I don't think a greater climax you can reach at the last round of the final championship event. So yeah, let's go and have a good clean race, and let's have a look, see who comes out on top.
Nathan and Formato shared the front row of the starting grid, leading the Golf GTIs of Michael van Rooyen and Graham Donker, plus Sean Dumini's Ford.
Class T, Bridgestone Production Cars, this is what it's come down to as well. Nathan versus Formato, Golf GTI versus Ford ST Focus. There's 1 point in it. It has come down to Kyalami. This is going to get real.
And one determined Gary Formato versus one determined Graham Nathan. They do not like each other. This is the real thing. It's Nathan in the front in the Golf, and we've got Gary Formato, the man who leads the championship, as Matt said, by 1 point. And this is going to be an 8-lapper. The final race is going to be over 10 laps.
So Nathan out-qualified the rest of the field, including Gary Formato, by 0.5 of a second. That means he's 0.5 of a second, a lap faster. He will pull away from the field, but Formato is going to be hanging on as hard as he possibly can. He said at the beginning of the day it was going to be a hard fight to hang on and beat Nathan. It's going to come down to the second race.
Yeah, the shadows are starting to lengthen too. Here comes Bose. He's right on his tail as they come up on Van Rooyen. In fourth spot, we look a little bit further back. There we've got the Class B battle as well. They run concurrently with these ahead of Gary Green in the Alfa Romeo, that red Alfa.
That was Kuzi Swanepoel leading that one out, but what we're concentrating on is the Class T's Indy Oil Golf GTI as they crest up onto the top of West Bank Hill, and this is where the weather first shows its signs. There's a few spots on, so it's going to be pretty greasy to try and get the power down. Formato, though, he's got that fire-breathing Ford Focus ST right up on the back bumper of Graham Nathan. These are the two guys fighting out for the championship. Nathan gets a good drive down the mineshaft, though, through the sweep, and Formato real early turning in, trying to find a gap, trying to keep the pressure on the whole way through. It's the only way he's going to make a pass happen. These two are the class of the field, and Berza, the ever-improving Berza in the Mazda, is bringing it on in third as well. He's actually right on the back wheel of Formato.
And you can hear these big turbos that work on these cars, man, they really get along. We've got Van Rooyen in fourth. We've got Sean Dumini, who's Gary Formato's teammate. We're on the board with Gary now. As they come around the last turn of the lap, it's Graham Nathan. Nice lead. It's going to be very hard to pass him.
After doing all that work in qualifying, that's what it's going to be about. It's all about the whole shot, as we say, getting off the front, turning consistent laps, and that's why at lap 6 of 8, that's where we are now, that's why he's pulled out over 2 seconds ahead of Formato, who looks to be battling with the handling of the Ford.
The roads are still dry, and Berza, there he goes, freewheeling into the pits, out with motor trouble. He's out of contention, this one. And if the positions are taken into account now, we've got Graham Nathan going into a 1-point lead ahead of Gary Formato, and they've got one race to finalize the championship.
That's going to open up the smaller placings. By my count then, Van Rooyen moves himself up into third place on the road. What we're watching right now is the fourth place battle, the second of the Ford Focuses. Oh man, that's Van Rooyen.
Now that's Mark Carver from Cape Town. major shunt as he came around Sunset and let go. That's a fatal place to let go. And here we come with the leader. It's Graham Nathan going into the championship lead with just a 10-lapper to go, and he's going to take the title in that Indy Oil GTI Volkswagen.
Like you say, Rog, one step closer to ultimate victory for Motto. He's going to be scratching his head, wondering what to do in race number 2.
Nathan's victory was comprehensive. He crossed the finish line more than 4 seconds ahead of Gary Formato, with Michael van Rooyen's Golf another 12 seconds adrift in 3rd place. Coming into the post-race paddock afterwards, both Gary Formato and Graham Nathan drove extremely slowly to their respective parking spaces. They had a lot on their minds, but were in different states of happiness for obvious reasons. Formato's gesture says it all. He had done his best, but to no avail, while Nathan was a picture of happiness in his Golf.
We've had a really hard year. The weather has come along to make it just a little bit tougher, make the car slip and slide and have a couple of moments, put your heart in your mouth. But it all turned out well, and yeah, I just wanted to try and get out there, see if I could get to the front and get it to the line first.
It was a sopping wet and extremely slippery Kyalami that greeted the Class D competitors the second time around. The second race's reverse order grid placed Nathan and Formato in the 8th and 9th places respectively, with a lot to do under difficult conditions.
You can see that Graham Nathan starts in 9th spot. Ahead of him, he's got Gary Formato. There's going to be a war at the back of this field using the reverse grid. A longer race. It's over 10 laps. There's 11 cars left. No Carver from Cape Town. You saw his wreck stand the side of the road. And here they go. You can hardly see where to go racing. Here comes Van Rooyen now, just surviving at the moment. But there's 2 guys behind him who are intent on winning this title.
Scary conditions for everyone to go out there. I know what you're saying there, Rog. 2 guys, no one else is in it. It is a 2-horse race. Gary Formato and Graham Nathan. They need to get through all this traffic nice and clean. Formato tries the inside line, Nathan around the outside. The big story here, though, is we've got a blocker in the midst. Duminy, in fact, there's contact between Duminy and Formato. There's no love lost in this team.
Well, I think there is love lost, but that wasn't a good start. I don't think they can see what was happening. He just suddenly got a thump. Here's Brett Roach. Then we've got Pete Fasaki, Graham Donker's the yellow car there. Then it's Gary Formato, Sean Duminy, and on the tails from 9th to 5th, there's Graham Nathan. There's one.
Duminy sideways. Looks like he got a little tap from behind from his teammates. So it looks like Formato might have got himself through and will be the leading forward as they go onto the back straight. Yes, they're side by side. So teammates duking it out. The first of the forwards is definitely Formato. So it's Graham Nathan. He's now got to get up the inside as they go into the S's. And that is Duminy. Very hard man to pass.
Absolutely. As he comes up to the S's there, here he comes. He's right on his tail. They've got to stay wide to stay away from the very wet track on the inside. It like forms a lake on the inside. They're starting to climb. You can't see it, but you're going up a blind rise up to West Bank Corner, and here they arrive, hardly able to see. Wipers are going. On the outside is Graham Nathan. Here comes Formato for the front. He's going round Fasaki. Now he's got Brett Roach to pass as well.
So it's Formato going for the lead. In fact, here's the dice on Nathan and Duminy. There's a lot of contact, and there's a lot more contact as they go down the hill. Spinning. Graham Nathan goes spinning out.
Sure. There's the championship gone. Out of control. The grass doesn't slow you down. You can do what you like. Parked at the side of the road. Goodbye championship for Graham Nathan. Gary Formato is going to take it.
Well, yeah, I think that's how it's going to go, to be honest, as Gary Formato challenges for the lead. So it's a Polo GTI that is getting boxed out by a Ford Focus ST. As you see Duminy in the background there, it looks like he might have run out of brakes going into the sweep. And Brett Roach does the same story as well. Remember, these are front-wheel drive, turbocharged cars trying to battle it out in absolutely dismal conditions.
And Pete Fasaki's moving up. Graham Donker, he's just come back to racing this year. There he is, right on his tail as they come out of the last corner. Not far to go in this race. You can see the conditions have
This is Nathan coming in, so he hasn't been able to continue his race. He limps the Indy Oils Golf GTI into the pits, and I just can't imagine what's going through his head right now. He had to win out. He had to stay within a hair's breadth of Gary Formato, and he doesn't even get to complete the final race of the year.
Can you imagine how disappointed you are? It comes into the pits, it's pouring down with rain. Your car's are wrecked, the championship's gone, and that says it all. Sheer disappointment.
Yeah, I think all we really wanted on the weekend was no kamikaze stuff and a little bit of fair and let the games begin. I got taken out in Westbank. I'm not really quite sure what happened at this point. Graham's not in a position to chat to the cameras.
Check this out one more time. Up at West Bank Corner, the moment where Graham Nathan lost out on the 2009 championship.
Gary Formato went on to score his most important victory of the year for the Ford team, leading home Graham Donker, who managed to snatch the quickest race lap in his Golf GTI. Formato was still oozing pure adrenaline as he climbed from his Ford Focus the last time this year, going in search of his teammate Sean Doomey before speaking to us.
Thank my team, Johannes, Nick, all the guys. Eugene did a fantastic job in getting this car ready. Sean Doomey, he's been awesome in getting this whole project off the ground, and it was our plan to win this championship this year. We've fought hard. We've probably some of the times had a little more penalties than we should have had, but we fought back and we've done it. So just well done to everybody, and just big thanks to Ford, Nando, Sasol, everybody involved with us. It's just great to be able to say that we can give them this championship.
In the end, Formato took the title from Nathan by 7 points, the price of Nathan's final race retirement. Third, a long way in arrears, was Heinz Boozer in his Mazda.